Hey, this is Tam, founder and CEO of Asian Efficiency, where we help people become more productive at work and in life. And today with me, I have my co-host Brooks Duncan, who is the COO of Asian Efficiency. And we're just going to dive straight into it. So the top three resources for this week is number one, chaga mushroom powder. So I've been experimenting a lot with different powders and like health supplements that I put in my coffee. And I've been kind of like on this grind of trying to figure out like what is something that makes my coffee tasty, super healthy. And I kind of stumbled upon chaga mushroom powder. So I'll have the link to the brand that I particularly like, and it has lots of health benefits. It's kind of like a superfood almost. So I highly recommend you check it out. It has a kind of like a bitter taste to it as well. It kind of looks like chocolate powder, but it looks really nice, and it also makes your coffee very tasty. So go check it out, chaga mushroom powder. The second one is the coffee machine that I've recently purchased. It's called the Nespresso Virtuo Plus, and it comes with a milk frother called the Aerochino 3. So this is a coffee maker and a milk frother in one. I recently bought this on sale, and I love it. For those of you who've been following us for a while, you know that I'm an avid tea drinker. It was actually the first time in my life that I'm drinking coffee at home, like ever. And so what better way than having a one-button machine that does all the heavy lifting for you? So go check it out. This is my device that I have. And the third one is an app and kind of like an online platform as well called The Nudge. So it's kind of like a limited beta right now, and it's only available in certain cities like San Fran, Austin, New York City, and Seattle. But the app, what it allows you to do is you can get text messages and notifications about ideas of things to do in your local city created by locals. And so right now it's in limited cities, but since I'm in Austin, this has been really helpful to me. So if you're in one of the cities that I mentioned, go check it out, The Nudge. It's kind of like a fun way to kind of discover your own city made by people in your own city. So those are our top three resources for today. And for today's episode, if you are someone who has been experimenting with a lot of different productivity apps, you already know like there's thousands of them out there, right? Like there's so many of them out there. How do you know which one to use? Well, we're going to show you some of our favorite ones. And I know some of the apps that you've discovered and come across are free, but sometimes there's a catch when there's stuff out there that's free. And so I know many of you are worrying about, okay, well, if it's free, how do they then make money? Or what is, then required for them to keep running? And are you going to lose your data? Or how do you know what is worth paying for? Like between picking a free app and a paid app, what do you pick, right? We're going to cover some of that here today as well. But also, we're going to show you how you can get lots of productivity apps that will help you become more productive and kind of create your own toolkit without breaking the bank. Because again, we only have $100 to our budget here today. So if you're excited about that, then let's dive right into it. I just want to also announce quickly that next week's episode is all about if we were starting over, here's what we would do. So now that we've been doing Asian efficiency for over 10 years, we have tons of experience. But if you want to condense it down to a few lessons, you want to make sure you check out next week's episode. So Brooks, can you kind of explain what the format is of today's episode?
I don't know, man. I'm still in shock over Tan drinking coffee. I just can't get that. I just can't get that through my mind. It's just not computing, but I will do my best to carry on even after that bombshell. But yeah, so this is very similar to an episode we did a few weeks ago, TPS339. We called it the $100 challenge. What productivity tools would we buy if we only had a budget of $100? So we are going to do a similar episode this time. However, we're going to be focusing it purely on productivity app. So we have a $100 US budget. We each get $100. What would we use to spend that on? If the apps are Mac only or iOS only, then we're going to do our best to list Windows and Android alternatives, though those aren't included in the cost. There might be cost differences. And there's one thing we do need to kind of get out of the way is the concept of subscriptions. A lot of apps these days, as we all know, are subscriptions. How do we handle that? It doesn't seem right that if an app is $6 a month, that only counts $6 towards our budget. So we're trying to kick around what to do about that. What we decided to do, there's no perfect way, but just for the purposes of this episode, If an app is a subscription, what we do, since we think a lot in quarters here at the Productivity Show and Asian Efficiency, where the number we're using for our cost of our app for our budget is for a quarter, so three months. That's what we're using for our calculation. Also, another thing we should mention: we've talked about Setapp a lot on the Productivity Show. There's a link to that in the show notes. That is an app that we both, a service, I guess you would say, that we both love. And it's kind of like Netflix for Mac and iOS only apps, not Windows, unfortunately. We love Setapp. We recommend it a lot, but in this case, we figure it would be kind of cheating if an app that we talk about is included in Setapp. So we're gonna be pretending Setapp doesn't exist and just pricing the apps individually. Does that all cover everything, Tan?
Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. So I have a list of apps here that I would pick if I only had $100. And again, the basic idea behind this is just to show you that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get the right productivity apps. And if there are so many out there, which one would you then pick? Well, we've done a lot of testing for you, and I've personally done a lot of testing as well. So here's the list that I have here today. So the first app that I would recommend that most people get, surprisingly, is not going to be OmniFocus because it's way too expensive for my budget here. So the app that I picked is surprisingly Evernote. So normally I'm a big fan of Evernote already, right? As the kind of like note-taking app of choice. And this is something that I would recommend you still use. And the good thing is it has a free tier that you can use on 2 devices, and it has tons of functionality that most people would need just on the free tier. So I would use Evernote for note taking, but also if you play it right, it can be a great task manager as well. It's not necessarily built as a task manager, but if you can have notes and tasks in the same place, I think that can be a big win. And if you set it up right, it can be a really powerful task manager. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 win here. So if we're going to be a little bit, budget friendly here, I would say go with Evernote. So again, free, doesn't cost you a damn thing, and you can always upgrade later if you want to have more features. Okay, so that's my first recommendation. So I'm still at $100 here. However, the next one that I would recommend is an app called 1Password. So I'm a big fan of this app because if you're not familiar with this, it's basically a password manager. And the idea here is, if you listen to a few episodes ago, we kind of talked about this a little bit more about password managers. And we can link to that in the show notes as well. This app saves me so much time and saves me so much headache that it's like one of those apps that I would always install as soon as I get a new computer or a new phone. Okay, so 1Password is available on Windows, on Android, Mac, and iOS, and it is on a subscription, so it's $2.99 a month. So for 3 months, it would be $9. And it's absolutely worth it. I store my credit card info there, bank information, travel documents, my passport, all sorts of stuff is in there. And all I have to do is just remember 1Password to log in, and then I can access all of my accounts. And it's streamlined, super easy. And so that's one app I would highly recommend you check out. So if you haven't checked out the 1Password episode or the Password Manager episode, go to TPS340. So you can always go to theproductivityshow.com/340 to check that out. So that's $9 already spent. So I still have 99 or $91 left. So my third recommendation here, as far as like top productivity apps that I would recommend, is a calendar app. And the one that I would pick here is Fantastical. Now, many of you who have been following us for a while know that I'm a big fan of BusyCal, and it's one app that I still truly enjoy. But if we're on a limited budget, I would actually recommend that people go with Fantastical. So it's available on Mac and iOS. However, if you're on Windows, I would recommend you use Outlook. But if you're on the Mac ecosystem, I would go with Fantastical because it's only $15 for 3 months. So it's technically $5 a month. And what I love about this app is that the interface is beautiful. It's very intuitive. It has natural language processing, so you can type stuff in words or in a sentence, and it will understand what you're trying to do. So you could say something like, "Have lunch with Brooks Duncan at 2:00 tomorrow," or something like that, and it will naturally process that and put it on your calendar, right? Or you could say something like, "See my mom at 2:00 for 4 hours on Sunday." or something like that. And so it will kind of like get that and then put it onto your calendar. So you don't have to really think much about it. You just type it out, and it's super quick and has tons of keyboard shortcuts and so on. So that's a top pick of mine here today. Before I move on, Brooks, any commentary on what I've picked so far?
Yeah. So yeah, we recently talked about Fantastical TPS338. We talked about our calendar hacks. We covered Fantastical a lot. Yeah, I'm a big Fantastical fan. Also, I'm a 1Password user. And yeah, I did not see Evernote coming as your number one pick. So it's a good suggestion having that. A kind of similar app, which is kind of doing it to service, is Notion. And some people in the live stream, we record it live with our Dojo and TPS Plus members, is recommending Notion. And they say for the same reason, it's so flexible that you can use it to store notes, to store tasks, to have a dashboard, a bunch of different things that you can do with it.
Yeah, so let's move on to my fourth app here, and that is a writing app, because I do a lot of writing here at Asian Efficiency. I do a lot of the newsletters, the blog contents, a lot of stuff inside the courses. So I write like thousands of words every single week. So I need a good app that helps me focus and stay concentrated when it comes to writing. So the app of choice that I have here, and there's lots of options in this department, but the app of choice that I picked is Byword. So it's spelled BYWROD. So this is, again, a Mac and iOS only. For those who know me pretty well, I'm mostly on the Mac ecosystem, and it's about $11. And if you're on Windows, I would recommend you use Scrivener. I'm a big fan of Scrivener. I've used this a lot myself. And especially if you're writing long form content, or you do a lot of research, I think Scrivener is like by far the best option out there. Now, there's a lot of writing apps out there, and the reason I like Byword is actually the simplicity. You just open it up, and you just have one screen in front of you. There's no beautiful tabs or anything like that. You just literally have one screen. It supports Markdown formatting, which I'm a big fan of as well when it comes to writing. And it's super quick, easy to use, doesn't require any sort of signs or tutorial to use this. You just open up, start writing, and it's very minimalistic. So it allows you to go full screen. And when you go full screen, it still centers the text in the middle, with the width being roughly what a page would look like. And so you can go full screen and just focus on your writing, which is something that I do every single time I use that app. So that app is $11. So if you add everything up that I've recommended so far, I still have $65 left. So we've already talked about 4 apps and $65 left. So I think I'm doing a good job so far.
Yeah, you're killing it. Yeah, great choice of a writing app. I couldn't fit one into my budget. As you'll see, I like Ulysses, which is a similar app, but Tan is right in that. One nice thing about Byword is Ulysses has a bunch of features that Byword doesn't have, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Byword's super simple and clean. So total great pick.
So my next one, and that is the 5th one here, is I think very applicable for people who work in a remote setting. So if you're someone listening right now and you work in a remote company, or you're working from home, you have team members all over the world, like one of the frustrations you're going to run into is that you're trying to demonstrate something or show something, but you can't really demonstrate it or explain it over text. It's better if you show it in a picture or in a screenshot, and you kind of point arrows at it, right? So the tool that I use for something like this is called Sketch. So this is actually by the Evernote company as well. And this is available on Mac. If you're on Windows, you could use something like Snagit, which is very similar. And the cool thing is, Sketch is free, doesn't cost anything. So I use this app a lot because anytime I'm communicating with team members or other people, instead of like hopping on a call, or if we have to do like a demo or something like that, or I'm like reviewing something, I'm trying to explain to someone else like what went well, what didn't go so well here. Oftentimes making a screenshot and then annotating it with like boxes and arrows is so much easier to understand than writing like 5 paragraphs. And so if you're someone who works in a remote setting, I would highly recommend you check this out. Also, if you work with designers, for example, we have a designer that works remotely, like having something like that where you screenshot something and then can annotate stuff, such a game changer, such a game changer. So highly recommend Sketch. Again, free. So I still have $65 left. And my 6th pick that I have for you here today. Now, this was kind of optional, but I use it so much that, you know what, I had to put it in here. So on the Mac, there's an app called Launchbar. Now, the equivalent that many other people use is called Alfred. It's another popular app for essentially launching websites, but also using keyboard shortcuts to really maximize your efficiency on the computer. If you're on Windows, you can use something like Wox, WOX. And Launchbar is $29. And the reason I put it in here is because I use keyboard shortcuts so much. And if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we love keyboard shortcuts. It's one of the best investments of time in terms of picking up a skill and the dividends it pays off over the years. I mean, I know, Brooks, you're a keyboard master, and not in the sense of the app, but also just like in the sense of just using keyboard shortcuts. Like, what are some of your favorite ones? And I know you use Alfred, right?
Yeah, I'm Team Alfred, but Launchbar is great too. Yeah, I use it for, oh my gosh, for uh, launching apps, going to finding files, going to folders, doing currency calculations, opening up groups of websites. You know, if I have our morning tabs that we do for Asian efficiency, I have a Alfred thing for that. You can do so much with, and that's just like scratching the surface. So you use Launchbar, I use Alfred, similar deals. Anything that you can control with the keyboard versus having to mouse around, to me is a big productivity win.
And Joel in the live stream is mentioning that he prefers the built-in launch bar in Microsoft called Power Toys. So if you're using that, go check that out as well. Honestly, I think it's one of the best investments you can make in terms of skill, and also having an app like that. Like, some people call it an app launcher, but it can do so much more than that. So one of my favorite features, as an example, is oftentimes we copy and paste the path to a file because we store stuff in Dropbox, and I'll say, hey, you can find this file in this folder here, and I'll just like in Pathfinder, I'll just like click, or in Finder, I'll double tap on Shift. It will then open up Launchbar, and all I press is Command C, which is copy. It will copy the path to that particular file and then paste it in Jira, which is our kind of like task management system. And it will show people like, this is where you find the file. So I don't have to like right click on anything or anything like that. It's just like tick, 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 done, and I'm good to go. So it can do so much more. You can even integrate with 1Password and then like launch websites that way and log in very quickly. So there's just endless possibilities, honestly. So I think at some point we will have to do our own episode on just this particular app category. So again, that is Launchbar. And after that purchase, I have $36 left. So I had to get really creative. And this is my next recommendation here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now. My seventh recommendation. This is going to be a little bit of an oddball, but one of the things I've discovered is that I get a lot of work done when I have the right kind of music playing. Not that I'm reliant on music to get stuff done, because when I'm doing deep work and focused work, I don't play any music whatsoever. Or every now and then I might play like a soundtrack or something. But my seventh pick here is actually Spotify. So Spotify is a music service, and I think it's worthwhile to upgrade to even premium, because I'm a little bit spoiled, Brooks, I have to say, because I have Spotify Premium. I have no YouTube ads. I go ad-free as much as possible, so I can just get straight to the content. And so if you're someone like that too, you should definitely check out TPS Plus for that reason, because if you love listening to our show, but you want to have no ads, go check out TPS Plus, because that's essentially an ad-free version of our podcast, which you can check out at tps.plus. Just type that in the browser and you're good to go. And so Spotify Premium costs $10 a month. So for a whole quarter, it's $30. So that means after subtracting that, I have $6 left. And I play just so much music. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Brooks, but every year they kind of like do a compilation where they kind of show you like the top artist and like your favorite type of genre and that kind of stuff. And one year they showed you how many hours you listen to music. And I forgot the exact number, but for me, it was like thousands of hours in 1 year. So it just shows you like how much I listen, like on the plane, at home, even when I'm doing my morning routine. Like there's like any opportunity I have to play music, I'll play it. And if you ever see me show up on the Zoom meeting, there's oftentimes music playing that I have to turn off before I can actually speak.
Yeah, I am also a Spotify subscriber. We have the Spotify family plan here at home because I use it, my wife uses it, my kids use it, and it's a good call and it's a good thing to include on a productivity list because aside from music, which I have music going all day. I'm somebody who I just can't work in silence. So if I'm not doing deep work, I have just general music going. If I do have deep work, I still have music going, but it's something like you said, a soundtrack, something instrumental. That's what I like to work to. But it also has stuff like focus playlists. So there's one called Productive Mornings. There's other like focus music playlists. There's sleep music playlists that has like music designed for helping you sleep. So it's more than just top 40 and soundtrack. It actually has a lot of productivity uses as well. So yeah, I think it totally totally belongs on a productivity list of apps.
So the last one I have, having only $6 left, so I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to spend these $6 because I got to spend it, right? So the last app that I recommend is an app called Tooth Fairy. Now it's not what it is, what you might think it is, but it's an app that sits in your menu bar, and when you tap on it, it will connect your AirPods to it right away, or honestly any Bluetooth device. So when you pop on your AirPods, you can tap on it and it will connect to it. So this is really useful when you have multiple devices, because sometimes my AirPods will connect to my phone, but if I wanted to connect to my MacBook, instead of going to like the settings, selecting it, right, making sure I press connect, I can just click on this little button in my menu bar by Tooth Fairy, and it will connect my AirPods right away. Especially if you have multiple AirPods like I do, this is really helpful. So it saves me a lot of time and it's very convenient. So again, that's $6. So after adding everything up, that is $0 left, and those are my top picks for the app list that we have here today.
Yeah, I'm impressed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 8 apps out of your $100, and you are definitely right that this making a list like this takes some creativity. I had to change mine about 10 times, trying to fit different things in and removing the. If I wanted this in, I had to remove that. So it's fun to do an episode like or an even if you're not a podcaster, it's fun doing a exercise like this with forced constraints because it really makes you think about what it is that you use that is actually really worth your time, energy, and attention. So I'll just go ahead and go through my list right now. Even though Tana's Mr. like Louis Vuitton suitcases, somehow his list is a lot more budget. He made his $100 go farther than I did. So mine, I don't have any totally free apps, although most of mine do have free trials and ways you can check things out. That's the nice thing about pretty much all of these apps. Almost all of them have either a free tier or a X day free trial, like 14 days, 30 days. So you can really evaluate it. So I'll just go right in. And my first app will probably be no surprise, and that is OmniFocus, the Pro plan. So OmniFocus traditionally has been a very expensive app to purchase straight out. It's like $99 for the Mac version, and I don't even know what for the mobile version. But they've recently enabled a subscription tier as well. So that's the one I'm rolling with here. So OmniFocus Pro is $9.99 a month. So for 3 months, that is, I'm already using up $30 of my allotment. I like the Pro version of OmniFocus because it unlocks a lot of these power features like perspectives. And then if you subscribe to the Pro, that includes the Mac version, the iOS version, the web version. So you have it on all sorts of different platforms. If you need to access your OmniFocus library from, say, your Windows computer, you can still do that with the web. If you don't know, I mean, we talk about OmniFocus a lot. If you're listening to this and you don't know what OmniFocus is, it's a very powerful and customizable task manager. And I definitely run my productivity life through OmniFocus. That's why I wanted to include it. If you are a Windows / Android user, I would recommend Todoist. It's a great task manager as well. So if you're not in the Apple ecosystem, check out Todoist. It's great. So right off the bat, I've used up $30 and I have $70 left. All right. My next pick is another Another app that I use all the time, it traditionally used to be a one-time purchase, but like everyone else, they've also introduced a subscription tier, and it's called Drafts. So Drafts is a free app. Recommend checking it out if you're a Mac or an iOS user. I'm including what they call the Drafts Pro subscription. And that is $2.99 a month, so for a total of $9. And Drafts is basically an app that allows you to really quickly enter in text. This is when we talk about stuff like getting things done and productivity. One of the things we talk about is the importance of capture. So you want to get things out of your head when you have ideas, when to-dos come to you. You want to get them down in a trusted system and make sure to capture them. So Drafts really lets you do that. And then the nice thing about Drafts is there's a ton of different integrations that allow you to then take that text and then send it off to your task manager, to your read it later service, to your calendar, to your email. It's a really powerful way of working with text and ideas. So Drafts, like I said, is an iOS app primarily. It also has a Mac app, which you can use if you have the Drafts Pro subscription. Unfortunately, not for Windows and Android. Some alternatives that people use instead of that: Google Keep is a really popular one. And Idea Note is an Android app, which I've been meaning to play with for a while, but I haven't tried it. And a lot of people mention that as a Android alternative to Draft. So if you have listened to Idea Note and or used Idea Note and like it, let us know. And that's something I hope to unpack for maybe a future episode. So that is $9 that I've used. So far, I've got $61 remaining. Tan, you use OmniFocus, I know. How about Drafts? Do you use that as well?
I use that as well. I still have the standalone version, so not the subscription version. And just playing devil's advocate here, why would you pick Drafts over something like Evernote? Because if at the end of the day we're taking notes, why not store in something like Evernote?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Evernote as well. Here's the thing about Drafts is it is fast. So Evernote, if you've used it, you start it up, the app takes a while to start up, it's got to sync. The use of it is a little, I mean, I like Evernote, I'm not trashing it, but it's a little clunky, at least I find personally. So for the purpose of what I use Drafts for, which is really quick capture and quick action, I like just using Drafts better. That's just, sometimes things are just like a personal feel. So I always have Drafts running on my Mac, for example. And when I want to jot down a quick note, when I want to capture something, it goes into Drafts. No reason I couldn't use Evernote for sure. But I just like the speed and lightweightness of, if that's a word, of Drafts a little bit better. All right, so that is my second pick. My third pick is a mind mapping app. So I am somebody who thinks in, so for me, quick capture is something that's really important, like I talked about. But for me, I am somebody who thinks in mind maps. So when I am planning out a project, when I am planning out a blog post, when I am planning out sometimes a podcast episode, when I am planning out a course, when I am trying to decide, maybe even deciding on things to do on a trip, when I'm taking notes from a book, when I am like, anything I need to think through, I do using mind maps. So a lot of different great tools for using mind maps. And frankly, you don't even really need a special tool. You could do it with pen and paper or pencil and paper. But the app that I like to do it on is called MindNode. So MindNode, again, is a Mac and iOS only app. There are a lot of great tools for Windows and Android. So one that I know is very, very popular is MindMeister. So it's available on Windows, it's on the web. So if you're not an Apple user, you can check out MindMeister. But MindNode is a really nice looking, easy to use mind mapping app that really works great on the Mac, but also great on the iPad. So you can quickly like sort through thoughts. You can move things around. You can put images in and stuff like that. It's my favorite tool, and I use it almost every single day. So that one is $250 a month. So for 3 months, so that's $7 to $8 in there. So yeah, I have $54 left on my list. Tan, are you a? I don't even know this. Are you an outliner? Are you a mind mapper? What do you do for that?
I used to be a mind mapper, and I've written many mind mapping articles on asianefficiency.com. And I find that over the years, I've been doing a lot more mind mapping on my whiteboard, and then taking linear notes on my computer or a tablet or a desktop. So I find that most things, if I have to do some sort of mind map, is usually a very creative process, and I like to do it on the whiteboard. And worst case scenario, I might scan it or take a picture of it. But then that usually translates into something else that is like an action plan or a strategy plan or something like that anyway. And so I actually like to mind map kind of like away from technology, if that makes sense. I like the feel and results of my maps, just not digitally anymore. So now I do it away and do it kind of like analog and then turn it into something digital afterwards. Because at the end of the day, the mind map is kind of like a nice brain dump to me. But then when I try to organize it and like make it more concrete in terms of what action steps or what strategy moves or we're going to take out of this, then it usually goes into some sort of digital form, whether it's like Evernote, Confluence, or whatever.
All right, so I'll just wrap up my last two picks. So one of them we already mentioned, which is 1Password. However, for me, it's a little different. I use 1Password Family. So that instead of the I think the $2.99 that Tan mentioned per month, it's $5.99 per month, and I use it. My wife uses it. Theoretically, my kids can use it if I could get them to use it. But it's great having that shared vault of things for when we, as a family, have things we all need to be able to access. So my wife and I use that quite a bit. So that is $18. So I have $36 left. And conveniently, my final pick is $36, and that is Keyboard Maestro. So that is a Mac app that is, again, another automation app. We talked about Alfred and Launchbar earlier. Keyboard Maestro is something that allows you to do almost anything on your Mac. There isn't really a great Windows alternative to this. Maybe something like ActiveWords, but even then, not really. And that is a Mac automation app that I use to do all sorts of different things on my computer that I'm a really big fan of. But you have to be pretty into automation because it's not the easiest app to learn. So you have to be like pretty hardcore nerdy into automation to want to spend $36 on an app like this. Fortunately, I am personally, but it's something I would say is like I would start with a Launchbar or Walks or Power Tools or Alfred first, and then maybe look at Keyboard Maestro a little bit later. But that brings me down to my $0. So there you go. Tan and I have both spent $100 US each. Tan, what should people do with this information? What kind of takeaways should we give them?
Yeah, as always at Asian Efficiency and on the Productivity Show, we want to make things simple and actionable for you. So I would recommend that you just don't go out and buy like all the apps that we just mentioned, right? At most, you might lose $200. But I would say the best approach to take away from this episode is pick one app that's resonated with you here today, where you went, oh my gosh, like I need that app right now. Like pick that app, go install it, go purchase it, and then use it for a while. So you really kind of get this sense of like what its value is, how it works in your own like productivity system, how you can use it, how you can benefit from it. And then once you kind of get a sense of how it works and you're using it on a regular basis, then move on to the next app that we recommend. I don't recommend that you actually install multiple apps from this because you'll likely just not use it for the most part. Because most apps have a little bit of a learning curve, so it's nice to be able to kind of like nail that first before you move on to the second app. So again, hopefully you discovered that you don't have to spend a lot of money on productivity apps. That's one of the biggest lessons we want to pass on today as well. As always, we will have links to everything that we mentioned in the show notes. So you can go to theproductivityshow.com/342 And next week's episode is all about if we were starting over, here's what we would do. So we're going to distill some of our life lessons around productivity and distill it in a few key takeaways for you. So this is going to be really valuable for you and also for those around you who are maybe new to productivity and want to shortcut the whole process. And if you want to become more productive, don't forget to check out our quiz. Go to theproductivityshow.com/quiz. It takes about 2 minutes and you'll find ways to be instantly more productive.